Welcome to the Teaching Science Podcast.
These episodes are recorded on Mondays at 4 p.m. Eastern in our virtual Teachers Lounge.
If you would like to join us on a Monday to chat about a topic related to science education, go to the calendar in our show description to get the link for the week.
You can listen to the recorded discussions as a podcast from any major podcast provider or on the Superheroes of Science YouTube channel.
I'm a huge fan, even with the college kids I work with now. I'm not. I think it's a better representation of what science is, right? We don't have single scientists go out and do their work and fly solo, right? It's typically a group that comes together to answer a question. So while you may have individual accountability, I think there's lots of ways in a research project to have that. So we have, groups of 3 or 4, I think, is a reasonable number to do research projects around. Nobody would be surprised. There are certainly different levels of success in doing that process. What I try to say to my future teachers is to just be careful that the group that you think, so you start out and you make a prediction of how this is going to work out, that I was wrong 80% of the time, probably. Groups that I thought were going to be high flyers, they were the kids that did really well if I told them exactly what to do and how to do it, right? They high level of compliance, right? And kids that I thought might struggle because they tended to be less organized and things like that actually flew, because it was more research really is about creativity, right? There's a lot of things that come into that, right? Asking questions in a way that are maybe different than they've been asked before, and it sort of drives that. Am I doing well, Stephen, not answering your question when you asked me those things?
I quit listening for a second there. I realized I forgot to hit record because we released the audio of this as a podcast. And I realized I forgot to record. I'm like, oh, so I tuned out.
That's right.
I just missed 10 minutes. I'll make up. I'll do your voice and stuff.
It was just the best 10 minutes. That's all.
I just make up.
And now Bill and Beverly and Amy are saying, wait a minute, he just said the best 10 would just pass.
So Mike, I taught middle school, and you couldn't have said that any better when you said that it's typically the kids who are not afraid to just try and do, who thrive when you start to do something like this, because to them, it's not about failure. It's about inquisitive and trying to find out what the heck is going on, where the kids that are your high-end kids are going, there's an answer. I have to find the answer. There's got to be a right way to get there. And you're like, relax.
It's really funny you say it that way, because I had a kid that I actually, I was sort of saying, wow, you really did a great job. And I was trying to not act surprised. I was a little bit surprised. I won't lie to you. And he looked at me, he says, the last time I can remember being right, I didn't have anything to lose. What did I have to lose? I'm always wrong. So it didn't, it was great. And it was really interesting because we would try to do this. I think it's important, there's lots of important things, but one of the important things around science is sharing out what you discovered, right? Sort of that science communication thing. And there was a young man that happened to be a Native American boy that really nobody really wanted to work with. And so he kind of did his piece all by himself. And we kind of used the big whiteboards to sort of report out the data we had and what trend we were seeing in the data. And so he held up his whiteboard. Everybody held up their whiteboard at the same time. That sort of forced them to. Nobody can wipe off a whiteboard as fast as somebody can see it, right? That's always my thing. Don't let them hide the whiteboard. Make them show what they have first. And they show it. And Randy, happened to be the boy's name, his graph was the complete opposite of everybody else's. And so people sort of chuckled, right? And then he said, I thought the question we were trying to answer was, right? And as soon as he said it, 7 sets of heads all looked down at the floor, right? He was the only one that had actually approached the question the way it was. So it's really, I don't know. That was why I think I'm a softie. anyway, those things were kids that never got to shine much, had a chance to shine. I was always trying to find those. So.
What was your question, just out of curiosity?
Yeah, so they were looking at the effect of, it was a physical science thing, and we were using sort of a modeling approach. So they were, how does the mass of the object affect the acceleration, right? And so it all came down to you have to keep some things constant, right? The total mass of the system has to remain constant, right? So the mass of the car and whatever you put in there, if you're putting things on, picture, 2 carts on a track, if you're trying to do collisions or something like that, if you take some mass off this cart to keep it the same, you've got to put it on this cart, kind of thing. And so they just put things and let them go down the hill, right? And they get this nice linear graph that was the inverse of what it should have been. Right? The law of inertia, basically, that an object that's a more massive object takes a greater force, greater impetus to get it moving.
Beverly, have you done any research stuff with your students yet? Have you incorporated any?
What I call a field research project. I live in a small town in Bluffton, and they have the Wabash River goes right through the middle of town, and the Wabash River is very brown. And the kids have thought for years it's full of poop and it's disgusting. So when I moved here 19 years ago, I wanted to find out if it really was. So that's our big, I call it a field research project.
Uh-huh.
And we basically are registered with the DNR as Hoosier River Watch volunteers. And so I have 5 sites in a 2-mile span that we visit each, because I have 5 class periods. So each class period visits a different site, and we do the Hoosier River Watch series of chemical, biological, habitat assessments, and try to find out, is the Wabash River healthy or not? And if, and what's wrong with it, and what can we do about it, and that kind of thing. So this is my 19th year here. And unfortunately, because of the craziness in our world, and I've been partnered with General Motors for this whole time. So the Fort Wayne truck assembly plant had been sending volunteers down to work with me it's like a week-long project every day. And anyway, because of a confluence of a couple of different things, it didn't happen this year.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping, I can go back to it next year, but we have 18 years worth of data on 5 sites. So we look at that too, how's it trending? What's it doing better? Is it staying the same?
Something to
That's
think
a great
about.
example, though, Beverly, of how you can take to build a research project between the 18 years of data that you have, the 5 different sites, and the number of variables you collected, right? There's a whole bunch of research projects for kids, right? They all take that idea of everybody taking a different piece, right? Even I cut you off, I'm sorry.
No, that's cool. I was just going to say that the information you're collecting, I don't want to restart my computer. The information you're collecting for Hoosier River Watch, you can also upload that to the Globe database. I don't know if you've seen the Globe program yet, but it's globe.gov, and that is literally worldwide. And it's, say, Mike and Sarah are both on U.S. Partner Forum for that program. So if you have questions, they're the ones we can throw out for them. But I don't know anything about it. But it's literally worldwide, and it has soils, hydrology protocols, has air quality ones. And here's a really cool one: is they have an app called Globe Observer that you can download. That's not the app, but you could download, and your students could do like air quality from home, and so they could do like the cloud cover, and so they could do cloud cover. The tree height app is awesome. That is the best technology lesson you will ever teach is that tree height app. By the way,
Yes.
I think every middle school workshop, the professional development that Sarah and I did over the last few years, I think almost every one of those, either their math teacher or their math and science teacher, are doing that tree height activity together. We make them calculate it using basically a protractor printed off, and to calculate tree height, and then use the app to get the tree height, so they understand what the app's doing.
I think we should maybe back up just a little bit. Because I remember, but the globe.gov, it's a NASA sponsored program. So everything on it, everything's free for teachers, and all the resources are backed by real scientists and trialed in teacher classrooms with real teacher feedback. And like Stephen was saying, it's amazing that tree height activity does the best job I've ever seen as a geometry teacher and chemistry teacher and everything of connecting like why you learn triangles and how that applies in real life. And it's so, I mean, every day I learn something new about the Globe program that I think, oh my gosh, I didn't know about it when I was still in the classroom. And I think, I missed out. Like I could have there's a lot of really cool opportunities, and the background and stuff too. If you say you're already doing the different hydrology measurements and things, what I think is so powerful is that, if you're able to get the students, show them it's relatively easy to add that into that Globe database. And then the kids are contributing to science. So real NASA scientists are using that data and well, first of all, it's ground truth verifying satellite data from NASA, but they're also contributing to that body of data that all scientists go to that database. And well, I guess not all scientists, but a lot of scientists will use that database.
No, that's a good hook. I mean, we've been contributing to the Hoosier River Watch database. So I always say, people in Indiana are using, scientists and people in Indiana are using this, but it's cooler to say NASA. And
Exactly.
It's pretty cool. and there's not really much to getting it, doing it. It's just, I think the biggest hurdle is just awareness that it's even a program that's there that you can add to.
They have the protocols right online,
Yeah.
online training. It's really a good program. If you need a refresher in some of it, it's all right there.
Yeah.
Micah, you're getting ready to say something.
I'm excited about the tree height too, because it's been up on the Globe site for a while, but this focus on figuring out the amount of carbon that's in a tree, right? So that carbon sequence. So the idea of the carbon cycle, right, and its contribution to what it does. That's really exciting. And you can't really, I mean, you can figure out other ways of getting at it, but if you have kids measuring tree height, and pretty simple, you don't have to know. You kind of can stay at the genus level, right? You don't need to know whether it's a sugar maple or a red maple or whatever. You kind of know based on the tree circumference and its height, right? And it's a maple. You kind of are able to figure out what the amount of carbon in that tree. Mm-hmm. So we've had quite a few schools that have adopted that for their schoolyard to figure out how much carbon is sequestered just in the trees on the schoolyard. So very cool.
Steve,
I think it's a great example of taking something and keep adding, with what that one piece, that one protocol and one set of data, you can do a whole bunch of crazy cool things.
And my daughter did her science fair project using that before we had the app. She calculated tree height of all the trees in all the parks in Frankfurt where we live, and then did the carbon footprint of the school. There you go.
Yay!
You're in. Yay!
All right, that's so cool.
Now, Bill, you've got to find something of value in this time we've spent together. Beverly, when at least she got the app installed. The first bit was a waste of time, but she got the.
Well, I think one thing that I love what Beverly was talking about, and I think we got to do this more as educators. You're using something right by you, the Wabash River, and the kids are now invested. And I guarantee you've had kids come back to you and say, "I remember doing that," because and later in life they're going to be going by the Wabash River if they live there, and they're going to remember, "Oh, I remember doing the water testing and all this other stuff down there." When I was teaching middle school, I don't know why I even asked this question, but it was getting close to the Indy 500. And I said to the kids, how many of you been down to the Indy 500? And like no kids raised their hand. And I thought, this is stupid. State of Indiana, and you've never been down there? I mean, and I wouldn't want the kids to go down there and be in the pit, but I mean, so we went down there on a practice day and the kids designed an experiment to do acceleration, deceleration, and those kids ate it up. And so it became a staple. You know, let's go down there every year. First year, the school board wouldn't let me go. They were like, you can't go. This is, you're just doing this because you want to go down. I said, okay, come with me. And then they came with me and they did the research and everybody's like, that's pretty cool. So I think we got to tap into more things around us that get kids excited, you know, as best we can. I know COVID stinks, but you know, you still got to find ways to do them.
That's why I like the globe thing. That's why I suggested looking at it, because with COVID, there's the protocols. We have standard protocols everybody uses, but then they have the data, and the different students and different groups can come up with their own question based off the data. They might be looking at, you know, a particular data point here in Indiana that they could collect versus a data point somewhere in Taiwan. And so that's what I liked about it.
With some of those tree height measurements too that they take, I think it's so cool because you can get on the data visualization site, and depending on like which data you want to look at, they have pictures from all over the world that are uploaded. So you can see, you know, in certain latitudes that there's a lot of trees that look similar across the world. And that, I don't know, there's some, I know that I think it's really neat in Australia. You can look at it, it's like, oh my gosh, look at their trees. And I don't know, I just think that, and then from there, I feel like there's a lot of like social studies tie-ins with that, like, you know, where different people are located and then similar trends that you see. And it's pretty cool.
Amy, did you get your mic working?
Amy or Mike?
Hi, here I am.
There you are. Hi, Amy.
Amy.
Hi. It's driving, sorry.
Oh,
Oh, please don't talk while you're driving.
No, I'm home now, but I didn't want to mess up my signal, so I just left it way in.
Oh, okay. Didn't want to mess up your car. So, but what about you on research? And I'm going to say, I know you're kindergarten, and what is applicable to the lower levels?
I would say life sciences are always pretty applicable because the kids are excited about it. And we don't have the Wabash River, but we have a backyard, you know, so I try to do science that's and research projects that are kind of revolving around things that the kids can see in their own backyard. So we do a lot with worms. We've done some things with like, well, soils, different kinds of research with those. Many research projects, nothing as expansive as what as what the others are talking about, and I would even say like butterflies and plants, like, so we always raise butterflies in the spring, and then after they hatch, or they, you know, they are finished with their metamorphic process, then we tend to try to research like what plants are best for butterflies, what kind of plants can we put in our class garden that will draw butterflies to our garden, and those keep them around, and those kind of things.
that's awesome to do with kindergartners. I think, wow, I mean, to expose them to those, you know, that they can see those sorts of things and make those connections. That's awesome.
Yeah. So with worms, we'll do some things like habitat. So if I do have a vermicomposter that I take to school. I had to bring it home last year because of some unfortunate things, but they were not safe at school. But this year I think will be a different story. So I'll be able to take them back to school. And so I like to start out with just the observation of worms, mainly to get the kids desensitized, because a lot of times they're terrified of anything that's anything.
Yeah.
So desensitizing them, and then creating a habitat for them. So we might do a research project on like what kind of environment would the worms prefer? Would they prefer sunlight or dark, wet or dry, or those kinds of things? Just real simple kinds of questions that the kids help then design a research project for, and then we implement it and see what occurs. And that way we can use that information to build our own habitat for the worms.
Okay, you use science buddies too.
Yeah.
Cut you off, Mike. Go ahead.
Can get you
Mhm.
the elementary globe program. We've had lots of our kindergarten teachers use the clouds book from elementary globe, so it fits really well into circle time because it's basically was it warm or cold yesterday? Was it cloudy or sunny? Was it did we get snow and rain? I mean, and they basically use those big like Unifix cubes to build stacked bar graphs, and then they just take a picture of it, right? And that's this month's data, and then you can go compare month to month or day to day. Cool. How many days did we get sunshine and things like that?
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, cool.
Does anyone have anything else they want to throw out in general? Ideas, questions, or something? What was that?
I thought it was your stomach, Stephen. I thought you were.
It might be. I haven't had second lunch.
Like hobbits.
He's not kidding, by the way.
I had second breakfast earlier, first lunch, but I did not get second lunch. No questions. We hit our 4:30. If there's no questions, then we'll wrap this one up. I apologize for missing the first part for those people who join us on the podcast. And that's one thing that we're doing, recording these each week, releasing it on a podcast. Sarah, what's the name of it?
Teaching Science podcast, and it's audio only, so don't let it hold you back from joining, thinking that you'll be all over YouTube, because this is only, we might have a quick glimpse of Professor Jabot, but then it will be audio only. So
The briefer you can show me, the better. I told you that before. You want people to come to the podcast.
It's just a small thumbnail.
Yeah.
Basic idea.
Yeah.
Police artist couldn't even identify it. It's okay. It's all good. It's all good.
But Mondays at 4 p.m. Eastern, we hope.
And Beverly, did Sarah get your email?
I didn't get email.
Well, either give her hers or either get hers.
Yeah, here,
or
I'll send you mine. Yeah, and then feel free to.
And if you have questions and stuff like that you'd like us to cover or talk about in the future, we'll invite someone to talk about it, or we'll just get enough teachers together that we can all chat about it. Both seem to work. And we're just kind of starting this because we missed the teachers' lounge. Well, we missed the good parts of the teachers' lounge. So if somebody wants to bring cookies next week, that'd be awesome.
I'm not gonna lie, I made cookies right before this, Steve.
Oh, and there's none here. Thanks.
There's none here. There probably won't be any when I go downstairs either.
No, with your household, I doubt if there will be for very long.
There'll be no cookies for me.
All right. Well, we'll just sign off, and we'll be here next week. Next week, the Department of Education.
Jake Corsell.
Jake Corsell, who's a computer
he's
science.
Computer science for the Department of Ed. And he's going to talk a little bit about expectations with computer science in Indiana, at least. We're excited to have him.
Yeah.
And Mike, thank you. We appreciate your time this afternoon.
It's great to see you all. Thanks for coming. This is great.
Thanks for hanging out with us in our virtual lounge.
Please like, download, and subscribe, and share the love.
Oh, I was going to say share the love.
Find us on Facebook,
Twitter, YouTube,
and follow us everywhere.
just not in a creeper way.